I'm really excited for this one, and I hope it's going to be an epic best of 5, as we're going to kick things off on Romente side. In the bottom right side, the main base of the Dutch Protoss, of course, representing Team Liquid. It is Harstem.
And on the top left-hand side, it is for Storm Gaming, MaxPax.
And he's already going for that pylon on the low ground. Now, you know what the funny thing is about this? Is that MaxPax has been doing this for so long that at first, the idea was always, let's punish him. And even players that don't normally one-base all-in, like Showtime, would try to punish it with 3-gate robo, straight-up 3-gateway pressure. But then eventually it's like, man, this kid is just so good in defending, and he has all the correct answers. His scouting is phenomenal. It's actually better to not attack. And this is obviously something that Harstem at this point knows as well. But what you can do, and I honestly think this is the best way to play against this in general, is make it seem like you're being aggressive, so you can even delay your own nexus a little bit, and try to keep MaxPax in the dark the moment you have gateway units out. Give him the idea that something is coming, but then actually nothing comes, and then maybe you can catch up and even overtake him economically.
Yeah, maybe make him over-defend against something or something of the likes would be pretty cool. I mean, we were talking about it. You were saying maybe on a map like this, a player could take the Rich Vespin Geyser, go for more Phoenixes than him or something of the likes. I mean, have we seen everything tried, you think?
I don't think we've seen that try too often at the highest level, but I've tried it, and with some success every now and then. Seems like Harstem's got a different plan though, and he's actually going to proxy something in the center of the map. Could be just a gateway for straight-up 3-gateway pressure, and now it's just a race against the clock of when will MaxPax find this. If you look at the minimap, it's not 1, but it's 2 probes already looking. Oh, he changed the route! He was actually going towards the center, but he changed the route, so he doesn't know it yet. The other probe, though, is still going to see it relatively early. And what are we expecting as a response? You think he's going Robo or Stargate?
I think MaxPax is going to go Stargate. I think that's kind of like should be the default if you want to kind of defend everything. But he did spot the Robo now, so I'm actually not sure what he should do. But I think that Robo, like Harstem is doing, and Quick Immortals, if you can get a few Stalkers for the potential Void Race, could be a very strong way to deal with this. Oh, wow, this is already a pretty annoying way for MaxPax to deal with it. I mean, if you're Harstem, you're not very happy. This pylon already under threat.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to go down. Adepts are very good. Okay, with the Stalker actually showing up, it will go down. I didn't think the Stalker was going to show up that quickly. Maybe without it even. So yeah, that's obviously not a great start. But okay, Harstem is actually just going to abandon the mission immediately. You see that? He's now dropping a Twilight Council. That's honestly very interesting. And now the unit that he's going to Chrono Boost out in the center of the map is a War Prism. The problem is, though, with 2 Adepts, it's actually hard to keep your Robo alive. So these Stalkers of Harstem need to get the hell over there ASAP.
Yeah, and here they are. I'm surprised Harstem also canceled the Shade. I guess he really wants to just control and fight the army rather than trying to go after the economy of MaxPax. Somewhat surprising. I mean, with the War Prism, he's going to be able to bypass the defenses at the front if he wants to. But there's already a Void Ray on the way for MaxPax, so this is very unlikely to work.
Yes, but MaxPax is going to be really confused when he sees the War Prism. He's going to be like, what? And what a key element right now to MaxPax's game plan is the probe on the bottom side. This probe that he has in the bottom side is going to make its way into the natural of Harstem, and that's going to give him the heads up that, wait a minute, Harstem is not actually doing what I thought he was doing. He's not expanding yet, but if he sees the 3 gateways, I think that's a bit of a tell.
All right, well, it looks like Harstem's going to commit to a big aggression. The probe will poke up the ramp, I imagine, after checking the natural base. He hasn't done so yet, but the ramp contains all the information that he needs to kind of start defending against this. Harstem will start warping in a lot of Stalkers, but MaxPax does have that extra economy. He's not building any probes, which I love. Just the extra 4 probes at the natural base will give him a little bit more to work with. Will that be enough?
Good scout here. It comes down to execution. I kind of like what Harstem is doing here, because Void Rays don't deal that well with Blink Stalkers, because then you can kind of command your Stalkers underneath the Void Ray. All Stalkers can shoot at once, and you can actually just defensively blink. This is going to be very tricky, and out of all the things that MaxPax expected to go up against, I don't know if Proxy Robo into Blink Stalkers is one of them. I'm sure he's faced it before, but this is not going to be easy, man. It really comes down to execution, and we'll see. If Harstem can find 1 Void Ray early on, then I honestly think it's his game. But if he doesn't get the Void Ray with the first try, then it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, the cool thing also is Blinkstalkers can bypass a lot of this defense, and MaxPax actually doesn't have that much more economy, right? If we look at the income graph, he's actually just mining a couple of hundred more per minute. So that's not too big of an advantage should this game go a little bit longer. Should this Adepts find a few probes, for example, like that would be huge for Harstem just to be on even footing for longer. Here come the Blinkstalkers already into the main, and MaxPax choosing or choosing to pull probes as well.
Such a smart pull, though, actually, on the probes immediately. Otherwise, the Stalkers could have gotten in range of the Void Rays and things would have been ugly. MaxPax wants to wait until his battery is ready. Stalkers are going to try. This is not quite the fight I think that Harstem really wants to take. He doesn't even get the cannon. Took a lot of damage. He did kill 9 probes, so he actually has a few more workers, but it's still 2 bays against 1, so Harstem obviously needs more than being 3 workers ahead.
Yeah, he also forced the battery overcharge. MaxPax on the other side has smartly planted a pylon on Harstem's natural base, so if Harstem ever decides, hey, this was enough damage, I'm gonna take my natural, he's gonna struggle to do that very easily. Blinks forward though, picks up 1 Void Ray, almost the second one goes down. That could have been huge. The Immortal is also gonna provide a lot of damage here for MaxPax. It's a great anchor, and I don't know, can these many Stalkers even one-shot it? No, right?
No, but I like this though. It seems like Harstem is gonna go for it. He knows battery overcharge isn't quite ready yet. This cannon is going to fall, and I'm starting to believe more and more that this is Harstem's game. If another Immortal pops, sure, MaxPax's army gets a bit better, but Harstem has so much more micro potential, and he's got a ludicrous amount of Stalkers at this point. 19. All the static defenses in the natural are completely useless, so that was an investment that really hasn't paid for itself. All Void Rays just use Prismatic Alignment, by the way, so that means that they cannot use Prismatic Alignment if the fight does happen in the next 30 seconds. I think unless Harstem really messes up, this is his game.
It looks like it. I mean, he's going to continue to threaten this Nexus. It's already lost all of its shields and some of its HP. And if the Void Rays overextend, I think Harstem is willing to pounce on that. A Sentry also makes its way into the battlefront. Is this just for Guardian Shield, you reckon?
Yep, I think every little bit helps, and maybe he had a few too many or a little bit too much gas. The next is so low on HP, and the battery's still not healing it. At this price, here's the forward blink, here's battery overcharge. 1 Immortal does go down, the other one gets saved, but another Void Ray does fall, and I like that force field actually. He's gonna keep that 1 Immortal at bay, and I think all that Harstem really needs to do is just wait until battery overcharge runs out, and then I don't really see 2 Immortals and 2 Void Rays killing this many Stalkers.
Yeah, and now, I mean, they're even on bases. In the worst case scenario, Harstem has kind of reset things for MaxPax play. His army is much scarier, much more maneuverable. He is obviously in the base of his opponent, so that is a wonderful thing, a wonderful place to be. 3 Immortals will be out, so that is a little bit annoying. Some Zealots to soak up the shots as well on the side of Harstem.
Wow, MaxPax just decides to sacrifice the Robo and the Stargate, which I do think is the correct decision, because the Zealots would have really messed with the Immortals, and there is no way that MaxPax would have won the fight. But yeah, now he's got literally no production whatsoever, and Stalkers are going to be in the high ground. At least the batteries and cannons of the natural could come in handy. It's still 1 base against 1 base in a weird way, but Harstem has a 30 supply advantage.
Yeah, what a wonderful approach here from Harstem, and it's gonna work out wonders. I mean, this looks like impossible for MaxPax. He does have a lot of defenses situated in his natural base, so maybe he's hoping to kind of tech up to an army ball that's just too difficult to blink onto, right? Like there's some fall of 4 Stalkers and Stalker numbers at some point where you start overkilling just because you have so many of them. So maybe if I mean, it's difficult, right? Like maybe if MaxPax can get a lot of very chunky tech units, switch to that Protoss mech style that you like so much, that could be maybe his card back into this game.
You know what I absolutely love that Harstem has been doing is that he keeps running 1 Stalker forward and then just pokes an Immortal, activates the barrier, because this really keeps MaxPax on edge as well, where he has to be so concerned about any moment that Harstem could blink on top of his army. Now MaxPax does have a backup plan by the looks of it, and that is the Nexus in the bottom left side. This is something that's going to be rather difficult for Harstem to scout, even though he has a couple sentries, as Harstem has officially recalled his War Prism. So this is going to give MaxPax the heads up that, all right, at least he's kind of giving up for now. And I cannot even believe that MaxPax has stabilized, man. He felt so dead. There were over 20 Stalkers in his main base, and he really didn't have a whole lot. But he is still turning this into a game, and he's going to make Harstem work for it. And imagine a world where this Oracle can find a lot of probe damage.
Yeah, that would be very, very scary. And Harstem really not planning maybe ahead in terms of economy, right? He thought, I have this game, and I would have tended to agree with him. But now he has probes that are kind of not doing anything, now having to reclaim his natural base by killing the pylon, takes a base further away, and later of an expansion than MaxPax actually took. So MaxPax is back to 2 bases faster than Harstem is, and that is rather impressive.
A little bit surprised that Harstem thinks the correct follow-up here is the Robo Bay. I actually would have preferred it, as this Oracle does find 4 probes immediately. Nice save with the Warp Prism. But I'm actually a bit surprised that Harstem thinks that he should go for a Robo Bay here. It would make a lot more sense to me to just try to control the map. You've got all the map control in the world. Fire up charge, maybe get a Forge, fire up +1. That would make slightly more sense to me. Harstem is running towards the bottom left side, mostly to look for this Oracle, but he has already seen the Nexus by the looks of it.
The recall as well from the probes of MaxPax, so that's going to be extra probes dead here. And the Oracle kind of gives this base away. That's going to be a great find for Harstem. And all of a sudden, the Robo Bay looks a little bit better, right? Like we were talking about map control, I completely agree with you. You have the map already, so why not just focus on the economy that you think you have an advantage on? But now that he has killed this base, I feel like tech is just fine too.
Yeah, I still think this, especially when you're working with these kinds of economies, Harstem only has 17 probes now. I think it would have been easier for him to go for Zealots and just make sure that the absolute most bases that MaxPax can ever get his hands on are 2, the main and the natural. MaxPax is going to retake the main, and it's going to be a little bit harder for Harstem to eventually blink into the main again, because this time the Void Ray and Mortar count is a lot higher. Yeah, I mean, maybe the Disruptors will come in very handy, don't get me wrong. Maybe they land a great Nova, activate 2 or 3 barriers on the Immortals, deal a lot of damage, but I think my preferred choice would have been a Forge, get some upgrades, and get a lot of Zealots.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there are different approaches, I think, both with their merits. The Disruptor, the cool thing about the Disruptor is you can actually start sieging this base, and you know that there's a lot of static defense as well there, so you know, kind of like an approach of like trying to leverage your army advantage or the army advantage lead that you think you have a little bit earlier, and Immortal already going down to the first Disruptor shot. That's not going to be too bad. It's the only Immortal that could have fallen to it too.
Yeah. Unlucky for MaxPax that the low HP Immortal was in the front, couldn't quite run away from the Nova in time. I actually wouldn't hate it if MaxPax decides to go for Phoenix now. I know that he is kind of broke, and going for Phoenix is when you're kind of broke, as he is running forward. Feels like he wants to leash on that Disrupt. Activates Prismatic Alignment. All Void Ray shooting at sentries at first. They do take it out. Another Nova comes in and connects with 2 out of 4 Immortals. But Harstem is bleeding out some units here, though, and I think he is in danger of losing that second Disruptor as well. This is still anybody's game. What a way to start off the lower bracket playoffs here in the DreamHack Masters Europe. I love it. 13 minutes in, 21 workers against 25. You may not like it, cats, but this is what peak performance looks like.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful game to start us off. Harstem still trying to make things happen, but these Stalkers, they just stand no chance against the army of MaxPax. He really needs the higher tech units, or, you know, having gone for a different round that he went at this point. So MaxPax is gathering a very, very strong army here. Things are definitely getting scary. Harstem still has maneuverability on his side. Maybe he can still find a way to blink some Stalkers into that main base and harass it. But yeah, I mean, if he's just going to get pushed back, that could still very much be MaxPax's game.
Yep, it seems like Harstem is going to run all the way back to maybe keep his mineral line safe against the Oracle. That does mean that he's kind of giving up on his Robo. Now, the good news is for Harstem, he did manage to squeeze out a couple of Observers. Actually, only has 1 left. He is going for charge now. I just kind of wish he would have done that before, because the army of MaxPax is really not good against Zealots. Like, Immortals are not good against Zealots, and Void Rays are not fantastic either.
Yeah, and this is so many Void Rays and Immortals. I'm not sure that Harstem wants to fight this head-on. I don't really like that he chose to get cornered here. I think if he chose to stay out on the map, it would have been better for him to just threaten counterattacks and just be faster at it, like blink into the main, pick it off again. Because now I feel like this is a fight for his life, right?
Yes, but I do think I like his army a bit more. Even if it's just 6 or 7 Zealots, they are so tanky against the Immortals. And I think MaxPax is aware of it, and that's why he decides to disengage now. That Oracle is still flying around without too much energy. 31 workers against 31 workers. There's another stasis here, and this one is actually going to connect in a big way. And that means Harstem will end up losing a couple of units, and they kind of function as a force field too, which makes it harder for the Zealots to continue the chase. Is MaxPax turning this around, cats? Because it's really starting to look like it, and that's honestly mental to me, because he lost his main, he lost his Robo, he lost his target, he lost a lot of probes, he lost a hidden Nexus, and now I look at it and I'm like, I feel like he's gonna win.
It looks very scary, right? Because the Void Rays, I mean, even just the Void Rays against the Stalkers, that's going to be a fight that incrementally is going to favor the Void Rays over time, because the Stalkers can only one-shot so much, and it's there's gonna be overkill at some point. And then when you reach that overkill point, the Void Rays will get stronger and stronger because they're not all going to be firing at the same thing in one shot. They're going to be having their prismatic alignment and their beams constantly putting out damage. Okay, Harstem's going for it. We'll catch a couple of the Immortals, so that's nice to start. All of the prismatic alignment also spent for the Void Rays, so that's a really nice opening for him.
Yeah, I was very worried there, but the force fields were quite good. So he was able to grab one Immortal, nice cancel on this base. There is one Oracle still flying around on the bottom side, and Harstem actually only left a single Stalker behind. But MaxPax was too busy paying attention to all his Voids and his Immortals. We can't really blame him for that. That's a very ambitious expand. Now MaxPax is going to get his own Robo Bay. As Harstem finds himself a pylon. My goodness, this game is still so close because you're spot on with the Stalkers. The thing is, the Zealots are awesome, but if you lose all the Stalkers, obviously you're not winning the fight either.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what I like now is these Archons give me so much more hope, right? Like, they're actually the opposite side of the coin of what I was talking about, where the Void Rays are actually going to scale down against them, or they're going to scale up against greater numbers, because the Void Rays do tend to clump up. So having these Archons mixed in is wonderful for Harstem. If he continues to do that, I think that the Immortals are mostly accounted for with the Zealots. So I love the Archon backbone. As soon as I saw the first Archon, I'm feeling a lot better about his chances.
Yep, I mean, the army is still bigger, of course, on the side of Harstem too, but once +1 air weapons finish up, that's a lot of extra DPS for these Void Rays. And Archons are great against Void Rays, but Void Rays can also be pretty good. Oh, forward blink, and there is a Disruptor out that gets a decent connection at first. MaxPax needs to disengage, he needs to run towards the battery, he needs to activate Overcharge. I feel like he could have done this a bit quicker. If I was Harstem, I would disengage now, because you can never win a fight in range of battery Overcharge, or can you?
Yeah, I mean, that was not a win, but that was good enough, I think, for Harstem. Just lowering this Void Ray numbers and the Stalker numbers means that those Stalkers are still within or close within range to one-shot less number of Void Rays. So it looks pretty good. And MaxPax, I mean, he's playing with fire here, trying to take this third, but I guess he kind of has to, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised that he didn't take it a little bit chiller, because he's actually economically ahead. But obviously that's something we know. He doesn't necessarily know that. For all he knows, Harstem has a stronger economy than what he's currently working with. That one Oracle still looking for openings, and it's still alive. It has 8 kills. Obviously MaxPax would need a little bit more. Man, that fight was... I think if MaxPax would have ran back immediately, it would have gone a lot better. I actually think he stood away from his cannons and his battery's a bit too long. Well, Nova does go forward. Good job sniping the Prism, but this also means that the Void Rays are going to be in a really awkward spot. The Archon's not quite participating in the battle at first, though. Really good micro there by MaxPax, but he did not cancel the Nexus. And that's 400 minerals down the drain. 400 minerals he can really not afford to lose at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And the sneakiest probe in the world, it has dropped another Nexus on the top right-hand side of the map. So that's another thing that Harstem will look for eventually. A Disruptor shot will maybe... Oh, not even catch that Zealot. Nice.
Yep. I'm actually surprised that Harstem is still running around here without the Prism. Like, I don't think we ever want a forward blink. At this point, I actually think I favor MaxPax's defensive army over Harstem's army, but I think Harstem is just kind of faking it. And now 19 minutes in, we're casually dropping a Forge, right? Like, what about some +1?
Yeah. Row also being rebuilt on the side of Harstem. Yeah, I love it. And like you were saying, I mean, that's not enough Stalkers to one-shot or threaten the Void Rays, so Harstem is going to evacuate, and I don't mind that at all. I mean, if you're Harstem, do you watch this replay and just scout non-stop or throughout the entire series against MaxPax? This guy is so sneaky.
Yep, but Harstem knows that, and he's already sending a Zealot towards the top right side, so that Zealot is going to show up at the right moment. I hope for MaxPax that he doesn't recall probes, because if he does decide to recall probes, he's probably going to end up losing those too, but this is still a game, cats. It is still a game. MaxPax doesn't just have a lot of Void Rays. He's also got Disruptors. And this is where things become a bit more complicated, because whenever you face a guy that's just sitting there building a lot of Void Rays, if they do that of 2 bases, it's not scary. But if they start doing it of 3 bases and you've got a weak economy yourself, that's where it actually becomes pretty problematic.
Yeah, and oddly enough, it seems like we've gone back in time and Harstem listened to your advice, because we have kind of like the setup that you were talking about earlier, right? With a higher tech versus the map control, the greater economy on the side of Harstem is being developed. He has a few more workers, a lot more real estate to work with. So yeah, what should he do from now?
I honestly think just get more probes, get more bases, and be like, all right, this is romanticide. You have 3 bases. That's annoying. There's just not too much I can do about it. I would just try to make sure that he can never, ever, ever go up to 4 base, MaxPax that is. And then at that point, you can start doing the same thing as he's doing, because you're the one with all the map control in the world. And it's not like MaxPax is going to be able to build an army that you can never defeat, because this is PvP, right? So Harstem could absolutely drop his own Stargate, but I think, yeah, there you go, drops his own Stargate. But I would like to see him get a few more probes at least, and obviously once more make 100% sure MaxPax stays on the 3 bases he's currently at.
What I am terrified for is those disruptors of MaxPax. He has so many. We were talking about how the Archons are a good response to the Void Rays, but the disruptors are amazing against the Archons. They're really gonna struggle to split against those, and they are chunky, they're not very fast, so they're probably gonna get Nova at some point. Does this mean, can Harstem at least currently even look for any sort of engagement, or should he just stay out on the map and maybe look for counterattacks should MaxPax move out?
I mean, I'm curious about your opinion, but I really don't think that Harstem should ever run into the army of MaxPax now. Just be like, you have your 3 bases, that's fine, but at this point, I'm the one with map control, I'm the one with the better economy, and whatever you plan on doing, I'm just gonna do the same thing as you are.
Oh, very interesting, yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, I would love that, but I feel like he already has such a big base of units that it would be difficult to trade him and match MaxPax kind of blow for blow with the same type of army, and MaxPax is going to be a little bit ahead in terms of like upgrades for his air fleet as well. So I think what I would like is kind of like what Harstem's doing, right? Like he has units all over the place. If MaxPax moves out or makes any move, I think he counterattacks right away and forces MaxPax to go back and defend and already take some damage, or to go all in, and then you have more bases to leverage, you have more space to lose basically, and maybe you're faster to the base race, and then maybe look to replenish a stronger army.
Yeah, I mean, Harstem has units, but he doesn't actually see this Nexus. I am a little bit surprised by that. Harstem goes for Tempest immediately, which I do think is a pretty smart response, because Tempest are obviously phenomenal against carriers, but it does make it a very awkward situation, because there is a good chance that his ground army can do a whole lot, because of those disruptors that you mentioned as well. And if the Void Rays get on top of Tempest, well, don't blink, because they're going to disappear real quick.
All right. Or do blink, but defensively for... yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to see Harstem get pinned back. Whenever I see him go back to his side of the map, I get a little bit worried. I feel like if MaxPax kind of gets room to move out and to gain space, that's where I start getting worried for Harstem. And if MaxPax starts taking engagements on the side of Harstem, that's where I get further worried, because I don't see this army currently standing any shot against MaxPax. So I think he needs to play the sneaky game. I think he's still in a very good position, right? Like clearly he's already maxed against the 153 supply, but when MaxPax gets maxed, his max is going to be a lot stronger than Harstem's.
Yep, and even right now, maybe the army of MaxPax is already a bit more powerful, but Harstem is going to try to get rid of some of that silly supply. Zealots running into the 4th base. Stalkers are going to try to poke at the 3rd. I don't think they should be able to get this Nexus. The Void Rays have Flux Veins, by the way, so they are very speedy boys. But I'm kind of worried for Harstem that he let MaxPax get up to 4 bases. I actually think this is something he really could have prevented, or at least delay it for quite some time. But it just kind of happened. MaxPax sent a single probe to the low ground, warped in the Nexus, never lost their base. I actually think MaxPax is very good in these SkyToss versus SkyToss games. So, yeah, now he's got an economy too, and Harstem is really not outmining MaxPax by all that much anymore once the Void base is fully saturated and the gases are up and running too. Anybody's game. I cannot believe this has turned into a 25-minute game. Out of all the games, the man lost everything in his main cats.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely insane. And Harstem, to his credit, he made some really cool decisions, and it seemed like he really studied MaxPax and his response. So, you know, in spite of that, for MaxPax to not just be in this game, but potentially have the stronger army, that's pretty scary. Now, talk to me about this Tempest, though, Kev. Like, how do these fare against the army that MaxPax has? Is that enough of an answer, or is MaxPax having this many Tempests himself going to be enough?
If Harstem controls his units well, he definitely has the better army, but it's so easy to make a little mistake with Tempest, man. Because the Void Rays, they are speedy boys with Flux Veins, and if the Voids get on top of the Tempest, they just die so quickly. So it comes down to execution. If Harstem controls perfectly, in theory, his army is better. If he makes one mistake with the Void Rays getting on top of the Tempest, he could actually be in trouble. The Disruptors are going to push the Archons back, and so far, I like what MaxPax is doing here.
Yeah, I think that Harstem lost vision of that observer and it didn't hit or something with the Tempest. The Tempest shot seemed to go nowhere there. I'm not sure how that interaction quite works. But a nice Stasis Trap will catch the counterattack here from Harstem. It's not a big one, it's just Zealots. And I mean, that looked pretty good for MaxPax. Just the fact that he went for the Tempest with the Void Rays and then zoned off the Archons, which are the real threat to those Void Rays. So, yeah, what does Harstem need to do? Just hug his static defense at this point and get more and more Tempests, or?
Yep, I guess we just keep on tagging the army, and if you have more Tempests, you need to utilize that range. But I guess Harstem still wants to get rid of some of the early game supply, and Stalkers are going to try to put in some work on this Nexus, but battery overcharge will save the day. Like Harstem is rallying them a little bit. Yep. Losing a few Stalkers here, not the biggest of deals. How do you feel about the Mothership, Cats?
I actually haven't the slightest clue. I feel like it's maybe good to stop those Void Rays from charging in if he can get rid of the Observers, if he can keep tabs on those. And I imagine an Oracle will come in very handy for MaxPax.
I'm not sure. Like I feel like a Mothership, if it's like Archon, Zealot, Immortal, Disruptor, and Motherships are actually really good because they're so tanky, they almost never go down. But in games like this, where MaxPax has currently 12 Void Rays and 7 Tempest, it does just feel like a target. And I'm really curious to see, well, if MaxPax ever builds one, or if he feels that it's just not worth the resources and supply in this phase in the game.
Yeah, I feel like positioning is going to be key for Harstem to keep the Mothership behind his army and not with his army. It's something very difficult to do, I think. But that would kind of shield it against the Void Rays, right? Like, because then you need the Observer at least in front to kind of charge forward and threaten the army of Harstem. And yeah, the Tempest would be super scary, but Harstem has more. So if the Tempests of MaxPax are targeting the Mothership, I imagine Harstem would take better trades in the meanwhile.
Yeah, it is going to be very, very important for Harstem that all of his Tempest shots are on big units. If he A moves, even for a split second, and he wastes a full volley on interceptors, he's going to lose the fight, and he's probably going to lose it very, very one-sidedly. So unit control here is going to be key for Harstem. You don't even really want to shoot at Void Rays, but he wants to shoot at our carriers. There you go. He picks off a carrier. Well done by Harstem.
Yeah, very nice. A Tempest as well in the back will get shot, and that's really nice. And MaxPax does have that Oracle, so like the effect of the Mothership, at least in terms of cloaking, is going to be completely negated on his side. He's still going to be able to charge forward. The problem for him is going to be that static defense that Harstem is relying on and now using to siege as well. So really cute moves from the Dane, or rather from the Netherlander, the Dutch.
The Dutchman. A few more Stargates going down for MaxPax. Tempest numbers are getting awfully close. It's 10 against 7 at this point, but there are 2 extra Tempests on the way as Harstem gets pretty far forward. Void Rays getting in range. Archon shots are going to be nice, but the Disruptors will take care of the Archons. And look at the Void Rays putting in some work here.
Oh, yeah, but a lot of them will fall to those last 2 remaining Archons. Actually, wow, Harstem is doing it. I mean, if there was one more Disruptor shot onto those 2 Archons, no doubt MaxPax crashes this engagement. But as it stands, the Void Rays completely shatter the rest, or the Archons completely shatter the rest of the Void Rays, and Harstem stands tall. What a game.
That was actually such a cool final fight. I'm going to take another look at it, because it felt that the Archons were getting blown up, but the 2 Archons that survived, all these Voids were so clumped up, and they really put in some serious work. And Harstem's target fire with the Tempest, man, I'm looking at it again, actually really good. He's just killing Tempest of MaxPax over and over again. And after 28 minutes, the Dutchman takes the 1-0 lead over MaxPax. It's safe to say he really had to work for it, Cats. But boy, that's gotta feel good.
Yeah, and I mean, he had to pull some trickery as well, right? Like, because he was kind of, in the early game, it felt like if MaxPax had read into the attack of Harstem being that much later, he probably would have probed up a little bit more. He stayed at 4 probes for a long time, anticipating that I think Harstem was going to hit him earlier at the front, but that never was the case. So when Harstem does hit, and he kills like 4 probes, the economy is already even. And he killed like 9 in his first blink, right? So it looked good for Harstem, but yeah, like you said, I mean, MaxPax, an amazing comeback, not enough to bring it back all the way, but what a game.
Got really close though, and if it wasn't for those Archon shots, the last 2 remaining Archons getting some insane value. It's hard to put that in numbers, but if 9 Void Rays are clumped up and 1 Archon shoots at it, like, that's 100+ damage per shot easily, if not 200. So really good stuff by the Dutchman. I do think he knows that he still has a very tall mountain to climb, because if it's this hard to win a game against that young Danish boy, after killing his main, killing a handful of probes, killing the Stargate, killing the Robo, you know it's going to be a long best of 5, Cats.
Yeah, if Harstem's gonna take it, it's gonna be a long one, no doubt. So yeah, we'll see what he's able to do in this second game. It should be an exciting one. And by the way, both of those Archons were weak, right? It felt like they both got shot at least once by the Disruptor, just not the second time. So I mean, that was way closer than what it looked on screen.
I actually wonder if maybe MaxPax lost vision. I know that he obviously had oracles and he had observers, but it felt that they were pretty far forward. And if all those void rays would have just shot at the Archons, they would have melted. So maybe he lost detection for a split second there, but obviously a pretty crazy game-deciding fight. But this man has taken the 1-0 lead. Our Dutchman representing Team Liquid, it is Harstem.
On the top right-hand side, it's the great little Dane, MaxPax.
Kind of sad we didn't have player cameras there, because I would have loved to see Harstem's reaction after a game like that. I have a good idea of what it looked like, but I would have still loved to see it. Yeah,
some sort of fist bump, probably.
And I think a big sigh and something like that, shaking the head a little bit.
See that, yeah. Alrighty, we see Harstem and MaxPax both gonna scout each other. Pretty similar routes as well. And they're both gonna scout that they're doing the same thing. So Harstem this time around just kind of matching MaxPax at his own game.
Yep, I mean, Oxide and Blackburn are two maps where I also expect Harstem to go for the low ground pylon, because this is probably just the stuff that he practices all the time. Like anything else is just crazy. If they go for 2 gateways on the high ground, we're like, whoa, you like playing a PvP from behind by the looks of it, because all these guys, they have it just figured out. They know how to defend any sort of aggression whatsoever. And if it's just expand against expand, well, that's fine. But then the 1 gate fast expand player on the low ground is just always economically ahead. So there's no reason to go 2 gates on the high ground here.
Yeah, for sure. What if you know you're going up against MaxPax? Could you just get away with 1 gateway on the high ground if you're scared to match him on the low ground?
You could, but if you never practice that and now suddenly you do it in a tournament, like what does that really give you? Doesn't that just make things more awkward and uncomfortable because you don't find yourself in that scenario very often?
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine that most players also are in an uncomfortable scenario just trying to break MaxPax, because if they're not willing to use their normal strategies against them and they're not willing to attack with their units, yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation either way, right? Like MaxPax is just that good of a player, I suppose.
Did you mean on other maps or you meant on this map?
I meant in general. Yeah,
I
meant in other maps, yeah.
Well, the thing is that MaxPax will just scout it, and then he will also know exactly what he can get away with. Like, whatever you do that's different, MaxPax will have more experience facing it than you have facing whatever MaxPax is doing. So I think it is just best for Harstem to do what he knows best and the things that he believes in. We do see MaxPax going for a very quick Stargate here, as Harstem is running towards the other side of the map with a... with a Stalker and a Zealot. But I look at the main base, it's not just 1 extra gateway, it's 2 extra gateways. And Harstem still has a probe as well, so he's gonna 3-gate pressure while expanding.
Yeah, and he has a wall-off as well, so this Adept is not gonna amount to anything. The Oracle is gonna pop out, but hey, this Zealot should fall pretty easily as well. So the second Stalker is gonna be huge though for MaxPax. Now Harstem trying to focus it down, but the Oracle should provide enough firepower to get rid of the Stalker of Harstem here on offense, already turning its beam, and yeah, it looks like Harstem will lose his Stalker, and that means his Zealot also will fall pretty easily to both the Stalker or the Oracle.
Yep, Zealot was actually running towards that pylon, but I don't think you want to reveal that. But MaxPax is still going to take a look at the high ground, and he's going to find it immediately. He sees the slow warp in too. I don't think he can do anything about it, but now at least he knows.
Yeah, and there's already a Void Ray in production, there's already a Shield Battery finishing, and there is that ramp that makes, you know, this strategy what it is for most players. It's that good. On the other side, the Adept has been working on that pylon for a while and will be able to find it, and already a very tough start for Harstem in this match.
Yep, this is really not looking very hot for Harstem, because when he opens up with 3 gateways, obviously the Twilight is going to be a lot later, and that means that he's not going to have Blink for quite some time. He's actually going to lose power to these 2 gateways. Now the Sentry could be in a bit of a pickle too. I mean, that's lost mining time, that's lost production time, even forced to recall these Stalkers into his main. This is not a pretty start for the Dutchman.
Yeah, also his wall, I mean, it's not just gonna keep him in, but it's also gonna make it so that MaxPax has easy targets at that ramp. So yeah, let's see what MaxPax is gonna do here. He's just gonna poke for the time being. It looks like there's no probe on the way or anything like that to really super siege here.
Cats, without a battery, 3 Stalkers are going to have a very hard time against 2 Void Rays. Oh my goodness. And he obviously lost power to the gates before. He is going to warp in some extra Stalkers, so that's going to keep Harstem at least safe, but he's going to lose power again to one of them. This is honestly going from bad to worse. It's going to take a long time before Blink is ready. Prismatic Alignment activated. I actually love that MaxPax is going for the one gateway that's still powered too, because now he's basically taking out 2 gateways.
Yeah, that's opened the gate though. I almost would have rather for MaxPax, and tell me what you think about this, but I would have rather for him to kind of lower all 3 buildings first and then finish them all off at the same time, so that Harstem doesn't have an opportunity to do exactly just this and kind of move outside of his ramp to shoo away the army of MaxPax.
Yeah, I think that's smart, and that's something that MaxPax could have done. But I also look at how this game has played out so far, and I can only say that MaxPax is a genius because he is really far ahead. 10 workers ahead. He's got a Dark Shrine in production. Harstem has his own Blink finishing up, but even MaxPax has Blink on the way already. I mean, MaxPax is just ahead in every single aspect of this PvP. So I think it's kind of hard to really be very critical of something that he did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, no doubt. But yeah, gotta talk about something, right? So the Dark Shrine is coming up as well for MaxPax. Harstem is gonna drop his own Dark Shrine, but it's actually later. So yeah, I mean, every advantage MaxPax right now.
Harstem is sending out a couple of Stalkers here at his own third base. He may be able to find that pylon of MaxPax. Seems like he's barely missing it. I mean, this is really bad because Harstem has no detection. Like, MaxPax obviously has potential to warp in a cannon, and that's exactly what he's doing. He still has an Oracle flying around too. Harstem has absolutely 0 detection. He is warping in a Robo, but it's going to take a little while before that Robo is done.
Yeah. So that is going to be the case indeed. The Dark Shrine is now finished. So on the other side, MaxPax will warp in a slow Dark Templar. I'm not sure that Harstem has anything really. I mean, not even a force field available at this point in time. I think maybe by the time the DT is there, but this is looking very, very tough. The Robo will finish.
If MaxPax kills that pylon, the game is over. And MaxPax could very well go for that pylon. Look at this. We're going to take a look at MaxPax's vision. He's going to see the Robo, and he knows it's not done yet. He's just going to fight with the Void Race. He is losing a couple of Stalkers at home, but he's going for that battery. And now he realizes that, all right, instead of killing the pylon, I can just go for the Robo. And just like that, things are tied up. GG. Obviously, nothing that Harstem can do there, guys. You have no detection, but your opponent already has DTs. Sometimes you can do something wild, where if you have the better army, you can run circles and maybe try to get detection up somewhere. In this case, Harstem did not have the better army, so this game was absolutely over. I don't even know what really happened in the early game, Cats. It felt like we just kind of watched. We're like, oh, this looks promising for Harstem. Never mind. Oracle out, Void Ray out. Harstem is in a world of trouble.
Yeah, very tough position. I mean, he committed a lot, I think, to those 3 gateways, right? And also losing the first 2 Stalkers and the Zealot definitely just had the momentum shift towards MaxPax, and he just never let it go. I mean, it was a slight advantage that he just kept making bigger and bigger, even faster to the DTs. MaxPax playing a brilliant game. And yeah, I mean, that he made it look really easy, to be honest.
Yeah, that's something he quite often does in PvP. But it's okay. Harstem tried to catch him off guard there with some 3-gate pressure. It didn't work. It's all good. Things are tied up, right? Forget about it and move on. Next map is going to be Beckett Industries. And even on this map, that crazy Danish Protoss will build his first pylon on the low ground. I wanted to say one more thing about that previous game. Oh yeah, one thing that I liked a lot about MaxPax is that obviously at first he took it very serious, right? He had a shield battery, he got another battery, even another battery, but then he realized, like, wait a minute, this is going great for me. My Void Ray is actually already winning the fight. My opponent is retreating, and he just snap cancels these batteries because he wants to get as far ahead as possible, as early on into the game as he can do. And well done.
Yeah, lovely moves from him. So like you were saying, this map would be the least likely map to ever go for that low ground gateway because it's the shortest and there's no ramp leading to the natural. So MaxPax will still do it. Is there any possibility for aggression, or have they tried everything? I mean, we might as well have this conversation every time, but this map, could Harstem try something perhaps?
I wouldn't hate it. I absolutely think he could, and maybe he feels like he can, but we'll see how it plays out. In the top right side, we're looking at the man who was the first European Protoss ever to make it into the top 4 of the DreamHack Masters Europe. This is MaxPax.
And in the bottom left-hand side, the man with the lips on fire. It's Harstem.
I almost feel that if Harstem wants to be aggressive here off one base, whether it's 3-gate robo or something along those lines, that he would have not revealed this probe and just go for a proxy immediately and hope that MaxPax scouts it rather late. I think honestly that's your best choice. It's not like you need to scout to see if MaxPax is going for the 1-gate fast expand on the low ground, because he does it all the time, every game, every matchup, or at least every map in PvP. So you don't need to confirm this, but it seems like Harstem just wants to prevent the Nexus from going down. That's also a way to deal with it.
Alrighty, so MaxPax has already dropped his 2 gases. Won't be too slowed down necessarily by this move from Harstem, as he doesn't even have the money for the Nexus for a little while. Harstem's going to continue to poke around, see that both gases have been taken indeed. There is a Zealot now being faked, I guess, for MaxPax, as he's a little bit supply blocked for a second there. Just in case Harstem decides to drop the pylon. I'm not sure if he'll finish the Zealot or if it's only in case Harstem does this.
Yeah, I think if Harstem would have left, then maybe he would have cancelled it, because single Zealot doesn't do that much. But MaxPax has got some very funny move outs. And what I'm a bit concerned about, by the way, is this wall up of Harstem. I know MaxPax only has 1 gateway, but I've seen this boy find so much success with even just a single Adept. And this is not something that Harstem is ever going to be able to wall off.
Yeah, MaxPax is going for that single Adept that you were talking about. Behind that, he's going to be going for a Stargate, so being consistent as well with his gas usage. That Stargate's a little bit faster than had he gone for a Stalker, for example. And Harstem is trying to wall it off in a little bit of a funky way with the extra pylon there.
Yeah, I do like that he built that pylon though, because you may think like, your opponent only has 1 gateway, he's never going to be aggressive. Well, I've seen MaxPax find 6-7 probes early on with a single Adept, as Harstem is going for the full wall of, and it's just a 3-gate of 1 base at this point. But there is another pylon on the right side, and he could very well go for a straight up 4-gate. And at this point, it's actually going to be pretty hard for MaxPax, because MaxPax is opening up with the Oracle. That's not necessarily the greatest unit to fight at first. But I think if MaxPax can put 2 and 2 together, he actually won't expand. He's just going to be forced to defend on the low ground, which is very awkward and uncomfortable. But he is not going to expand against the 1 base 4 gateway.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach. What do you do if you're Harstem here? Can you identify somehow that MaxPax did not expand? MaxPax has also had a couple of probes on the low ground here to scout, and now 2 batteries also to reinforce.
I think you don't care whether or not he expanded. You're already committed, right? Like, you have spent all your resources. You've got no expand. You've got no additional tech. These Stalkers have a lot of micro potential. And obviously, if there's no Nexus in the natural, there's also no battery overcharge. So you can absolutely get some stuff done. Harstem has 1 shield battery in the main base, but his Oracle could eventually drain this battery. And Harstem doesn't have a battery overcharge available.
All right, we'll see if that's going to cause further problems for him. A lot of Stalkers here from Harstem, from all of his gateways already here on the other side of MaxPax. MaxPax running low on actually energy for those batteries. The probes, though, on the other side have to be evacuated. The Adept is also putting in work, and this Oracle will not beat the Stalker. That's actually huge for Harstem. On the other side, however, the Void Ray is out.
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of bad, because it feels that Harstem doesn't really have a plan B here. It's now or never. Another battery has finished up. There's 1 more close to finishing up, and it's just going to be so hard, because these Stalkers don't have Blink. This is not Romanticide. You know, all of this makes so much sense, right? What Harstem is doing. You think it's good. He wants to go for the Void, and he gets so close to getting it. He does get it in the end. Well, that gives him a fighting shot in this game for sure, but he's still kind of on the clock, because he doesn't have the resources to really warp in too many units at home. That Oracle will come back again. 1 Void Ray is something you can fight. 2 Void Rays and all these batteries, I don't think is something you can fight.
Yeah, and I wonder if you want to let the Adept actually finish off that pylon at this point, just so that you free up the 2 Stalkers. I guess you still kind of have to be on the lookout for that Oracle. Sentries here for Harstem are going to be kind of a Hail Mary, right? Like, try to catch some units off position and try to shove off some of those units using the wall off of MaxPax against them. But, I mean, with the second Void Ray, when it comes out, it's going to get super, super difficult for the Dutch.
Yeah, and it's not like MaxPax doesn't have any gateway units this time. He actually has 6 Stalkers himself. It really does feel that Harstem needs some magnificent force fields to turn this into a great fight. And I guess if you can force field away from the batteries, or only 1 battery participates in the fight, it's not that bad. There is a stasis trap going down in the main base, but Harstem is paying attention, and he's playing a very honest game, right? Leaving 2 Stalkers at home as well.
Yeah, with that stasis trap spent, I wonder if he has an opportunity to move out. I mean, there's still a little bit of energy on the Oracle, but plenty of energy on the shield battery as well. So I don't know. Do you need those suckers on the other side at this point, Kev? Like, do you need to just all in, or are you just comfortable? I mean, you're not comfortable no matter what, right?
No, you're definitely not comfortable because you're stuck with 4 gateways, no Robo, no Twilight, no Expand. So you're like, all right, I'm kind of on the clock here, but at least I have a lot of units. The problem is your opponent also has a lot of units. Harstem is going to go for it. He feels there is a little opportunity here, drops a couple force field, and he gets 2 units. So that's not bad, but I do feel like he needs more than just killing a Stalker and a Sentry. Nice job there, activating the Stasis Trap too. Drops a few more force fields, grabs himself another Stalker, all while not losing a single unit yet, even though that one Stalker is going to go down. Almost gets the Oracle there. That was a bit sloppy by MaxPax.
Yeah, and remember, MaxPax still on just the one base as well. Another force field this time won't net Harstem much. If we look at resources lost, it's actually Harstem that's ahead. The big problem for him is those Void Rays, and the last couple of trades have actually gone in MaxPax's favor.
Yeah, and the thing is, he just used all of his energy, right, on the Sentry. So that was kind of his attack. That's where he needed to make a lot of stuff happen. And Harstem knows that. That's why he's going to go for it again. Prismatic Alignment activated on all 3 Void Rays. And this is really not working out for the Dutchman. He knows it. GG, MaxPax takes the 2-1 lead as the 1 base 4 gate cannot break MaxPax his low ground. Not fast expand, but still low ground setup here on Decade Industries.
Yeah, and this is kind of exactly what you were talking about, right? Like, you go up against MaxPax and he's low ground fast expanding. One of his responses is simply not to expand. So Bolt's Void Rays are pretty strong. We'll go to a quick break, and when we get back, the resolution of this series. Welcome back to DreamHack Masters Winter. MaxPax leads this PvP 2-1 against Harstem. My name is Katz, joined by Roddy. And yeah, I mean, the first game Harstem won. He really had to work for it, Roddy. The last two games, however, all MaxPax.
Yep, all MaxPax, and mostly just the early game. The kid is an absolute genius when it comes to early game PvP. The last game was actually very interesting, and after we introduce the players, we can talk about it a little bit more. In the bottom left side, this man is now playing with his tournament live on the line, representing Team Liquid, our Dutch Red Protoss Harstem.
And in the top right-hand side, looking to close off this series for Psystorm, it is the genius kid, MaxPax.
So the first thing that's kind of funny about Beckett is that at first Harstem is delaying an expand, right? And he's kind of faking it. He's like, oh, I want to delay your expand. I don't want you to expand too early. But deep down inside, he's like, please expand, please expand, please expand. So it might seem a little bit counterproductive for Harstem to prevent an expand from happening while he actually needs his opponent to expand. But I think that was just part of the game plan, right? Like trying to make it seem like he really doesn't want him to expand, while he actually does want him to expand. So that's the 200 IQ play there. But MaxPax didn't take the bait. The second thing is that eventually you may think like, well, it's one base against one base. You've got 4 gateways. Can't you just drop a Twilight Council and go into Blink? It is obviously something you could consider. The problem is doing that off one base is a bit awkward and it's going to be very late. By the time that you then have Blink, MaxPax will have 2 bases up and running. And then you also need to worry about detection, right? Because MaxPax is no stranger to DTs, and he can absolutely go Stargate and Dark Shrine off one base. So then Harstem also needs a Robo. And now, how many things can you really afford of one base, right? 4 gateways, a Twilight, a Robo. Do you then expand yourself? Like, it's just really hard to transition out of that stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, if you're trying to apply pressure, you're looking for those force fields to put in work, you kind of want to snowball, right? And if you're going to slow down your snowball and get tech instead of units, then you stand a lower chance to make anything happen before you get your blink. So it's definitely a tough situation. Can't blame Harstem for trying there. I mean, if you're going to try on any map, I think Beckett was the right map to try it on, but it ends up not working regardless. And yeah, now we're here on one of the bigger maps instead.
Yep, 2K. As Harstem did drop a pylon in the bottom right side, where I think he just wants to give MaxPax the idea that there could be a proxy. And these are things that MaxPax now needs to worry about. Well, we know there is no actual proxy, but just because we know doesn't mean that MaxPax knows. But I have the feeling that MaxPax is going to find that pylon, because I don't know how he does it, but the kid finds everything.
I mean, the kid has 3 probes out on the map is probably how he does it. Like, that is crazy, but it really speaks to his confidence, right? Like, it's so expensive to have 3 probes out on the map, but it's not. I mean, it's a reoccurring issue. We've seen 2 probes at least in the first game out on the map, so MaxPax really wants the information so that he can react, because that is where he's strongest.
So Harstem drops a Twilight on one base. This is something we saw Hero actually do a Korean Protoss a few times, and he found quite some success with it. So MaxPax is still just looking for something out on the map anywhere, but he has already dropped the Nexus. That Nexus is close to finishing up. Harstem is going to get his own Nexus, but not before. He's going to get very quick access to Blink. So this is kind of a funny setup here for Game 4.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, MaxPax never found the pylon. He looked everywhere around him, though. So this is actually kind of a small, nice victory for Harstem, right? Like, with those 3 probes, if we look at the vision of MaxPax for a second, he looked everywhere on his half of the map. So he knows that there's not a proxy on his half of the map. However, Harstem here with 4 Stalkers. The Void Rate's already out. The first Stalker will fall for MaxPax, but it looked like Harstem might end up falling as well with one of the Stalkers, but gets away. Nice start.
Great scout though by MaxPax on the other side of the map. One of the 3 probes was not done yet. Didn't want to go home. Now that probe snuck into the natural, it sees the timing on the Nexus, and it actually sees the Twilight Council as well. So MaxPax knows exactly what is happening in this game, and that's going to allow him to make all the correct choices going forward. May seem like a small thing, but this probe is absolutely massive for MaxPax.
Yeah, and in spite of the investment in scouting, MaxPax is well ahead in economy, 34 workers to 27. So, I mean, things are looking pretty good for him. He's looking to stabilize here. What does Harstem need to do, Kev? I mean, Blink is still very powerful tech, and Harstem is kind of quick to it.
Yeah, I mean, since he's 8 workers behind, I kind of hope to maybe see a 4-stalker hit squad, blink into the main base, grab a handful of probes, recall the stalkers home. If you lose 1 stalker while killing 5 probes, that's absolutely a plus EV move. But this Oracle, though, somehow sneaks in the middle of all these stalkers, breaks through. Harstem losing a little bit of mining time there, but at least no probes, so that's good news for the Dutchman.
Yeah, that was actually crazy. He went in through the middle of every single stalker. Harstem had a beautiful spread. Now he's gonna tag the one stalker of Harstem, and Harstem in turn is gonna tag the Oracle, in that he's just gonna be waiting for it to move into the natural base. So that's nice. There is a
Hallucinated
sentry
Phoenix.
available. Yeah,
Yep,
there
yep.
it is.
It's already on its way, so Harstem could very well just go for the first blink available into the main base. There are 2 Void Rays though, and I don't know if blinking into 2 Void Rays is something you want to do, but Harstem is going to go for it anyway. I don't know how this is going to work out. He gets the pile and he gets 1 Stalker, but not before losing 3 Stalkers himself, and I think that's a little bit too much.
Oh, that's one of the bigger stasis traps that I have seen in a long time. I mean, the sentry maybe thought that it could handle it, but ends up not being the case. So yeah, not great of a start for Harstem. And he only lost 3 stalkers, I almost want to say, right? Because MaxPax was so quick to it, and he was already there. So 1 pylon, 1 stalker for 3 stalkers, it's still a bad trade for Harstem. And with that stasis, he's super far behind.
Yep, and the stasis actually, after it ran out, all the probes were following the sentry for a couple of seconds there, so that made him lose even more mining time. Now the Oracle shows up in the natural. I mean, watching MaxPax is honestly a work of art at this point. The kid is just finding openings left, right, and center. You feel that don't even exist. They shouldn't exist because his opponent has Blink Stalkers. How can one Oracle drop A, such a big stasis, and B, get 11 probes? Now, Harstem is on the other side of the map, but he really just doesn't have the numbers, man, to make this a favorable trade either.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to drop a 3rd, but MaxPax is right behind him. MaxPax is catching up in terms of Blink. He already has a Dark Shrine started. He is matching Harstem in terms of upgrades. He obviously has those Void Rays. And if we look at the income graph, I imagine it's not going to be pretty over time, because MaxPax says, yeah, look at that. I mean, it's just nasty. This is only a 7-minute game.
Yep, it's going to be very hard. It's going to take a minor miracle for Harstem. The good news is that he does have a Robo, and the first observer is out. So hopefully for the Dutchman, he doesn't take too much damage from the Dark Templars. But even if he doesn't, that doesn't suddenly make this a good game, because MaxPax has a bigger army, a stronger army, still has an Oracle flying around. Well, had an Oracle flying around. Does lose this one. It's not getting any better. Harstem needs something special. Does find a DT, so that's nice. 2 little victories there. Finds another one. Make it 3 little victories. All right. Well, welcome back, Harstem.
Yeah, welcome back. He's really going to have to stack those up, though. I mean, it's still looking very difficult. He's still 10 workers behind, so... You know, like in any other game, if it was an even game, it's almost as if those DTs had done a lot of damage, because it's still MaxPax in the driver's seat here for sure. And yeah, the one advantage that Harstem still has is a little bit of a gap in terms of upgrades. Maybe if MaxPax is a little bit slower to start his 2-2 when the 1-1 finishes, he will find the timing or something later on. But right now, it's looking difficult.
Yep, MaxPax seems like he wants to fight, but there is a shield battery finishing up. And with that battery finishing up, I don't think there is a whole lot that MaxPax can do. I do think Harstem is very good in disruptive wars, by the way. I feel like even though he says that he sometimes avoids them, I actually think he's one of the best in Europe to do so. MaxPax not bad with it by any means, but I think MaxPax often tries to avoid it because he wants to make the difference in a different manner. Now, there is still that battery that we can always fall back to, so I'm not super concerned here for Harstem, but you don't want to lose any more probes. There were 2 adepts trying to shade into the natural as well, but Harstem is paying attention to that too. But the Void Rays and Stalkers are still finding some success.
Yeah, Harstem has more Stalkers than MaxPax, so he's going to blink forward. Has to be careful with those Void Rays, but Prismatic Alignment seemingly not available at that point in time. MaxPax with Charge already being researched. He's going to be very, very quick to that, so he'll have the option to use a lot of Zealots, and he has a lot of Gateways, 2 more on the way.
Yep, there is one thing that's nice for Harstem here, and that is that MaxPax doesn't know yet about the disrupted transition. I feel like if MaxPax would know, he would queue up a Prism immediately and he would try to end the game. With the economic advantage and the army advantage that he currently has, I think there is a realistic chance of him succeeding in that mission. But if you don't know that your opponent is transitioning, now MaxPax probably thinks like, all right, there's no need for me to be super aggressive because I'm already ahead. The ball is in your corner.
Yeah, 80% done is the robo of MaxPax. That is one of those aspects that Harstem did have a small lead in. So we'll see if he queues up an Immortal or will he go Disruptors himself, or do you think he will go for the Prism right away? I mean, he does have the charge already up.
Yeah, I think maybe Observer into Prism.
Okay.
And there's a Robo bait too, but it could also just be for Observer speed, which is very important in late game PvP when Dark Templars start blinking all over the place. Harstem is a bit out of position and there's not enough energy on this base to recall, but there is a Disruptor. Good job though by MaxPax blinking away, but Harstem is still going to end up losing a handful of probes here, and maybe even a bit more than that.
Yeah, MaxPax with very good map presence there. He already was holding the watchtower, so when he sees Harstem's army on the other side of the map, knows to move in and that this space will be free. That is a lot of suckers for Harstem. However, he can one-shot these Void Rays easily, and he can also blink on the chase, though MaxPax also has blink available. So all in all, I mean, Harstem kind of stabilizing still.
Yeah, but he lost that Nexus. The Nexus he was building, he actually was not a cancel, it was a kill. MaxPax is making so many things happen at once that Harstem was a bit too focused on all the Stalkers and Void Rays there. So MaxPax finds himself another 400 mineral victory, and that's not helping the Dutchman at this point.
Not at all. And MaxPax already took his own 4th base. So Harstem's going to be aware of it. There was a pylon here after all. And they are actually kind of close to each other. So this could be an area of contention for that watchtower between both of the 4 bases for the players. We'll see what happens here as Harstem has to move his Observer out of the way, knowing that the army of MaxPax is a little bit closer. Dark Templars for Harstem now crossing the map. I don't know if there's another Observer for MaxPax here, so might force a recall of this Observer.
Yep, there are some cannons. Whoa, as we have a big Nova apparently by the looks of it. I was looking at cannons left and right.
That's huge.
Yeah, a handful of Stalkers.
Yeah, more than, yeah, it was like 6 or so. So that was a really nasty Nova in the middle of all the Stalkers. Now the DTs are trying to make something happen on the other side of the map, but it looks like MaxPax is going to spot them with the Observer. Now chasing them with the Observer. This could be good retaliation from him, but no Observer speed like you were mentioning earlier just yet. So it looks like the DTs might be able to get away. Maybe not.
Stalkers could blink as well to body block a little bit, but seems like MaxPax doesn't want to do that, realizes that he doesn't want to eat another one of those Novas to the face if he doesn't keep track of the army. I'm a little bit surprised by how offensive MaxPax is playing without a Prism ever, right? Because like no matter how good his initial traits are, if you don't have a way to reinforce, I find it very, very unlikely that you're ever going to end the game. And a few times he was sitting at like 1,000 minerals, which isn't that much, right? As we warp in 6 or 7 units, it's gone. But like, why are we making these moves if we don't have a Prism here?
Yeah, maybe just trying to keep map presence. I don't really know. There is a battery coming up here for Harstem, so that'll help him a lot. The Immortal will pull out or pop out consistent damage, but there's already a Disruptor here for MaxPax. Will whiff its shot, but there's another one on the way. Harstem has 1 Disruptor shot available and 3 about to come online.
Yep, while this was happening, the main reason why MaxPax is here is because he was trying to get lucky with DTs at the 3rd base of Harstem.
Oh, wow.
But Harstem was expecting it, and he's got a nice little Fort Knox setup over there with 3 cannons, a battery, and an army. So 3 Dark Templars were absolutely not going to ravage that mineral line. And Harstem is actually the one who has taken an economic lead now. Never thought I would be saying that. He really has done a great job throughout the last 4 or 5 minutes in stabilizing and perhaps even finding himself a little bit ahead, even though it still feels like he's backed up against the wall. And this time MaxPax has rotated the armies. It's a lot of Zealots and DTs running into the fort base, as that Nova is big too, but it's not just the Nova. Wow, I'm surprised the Dark Templars didn't go for it there. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, MaxPax knows where the army of Harstem is. Harstem having to go between the bases. All of the Disruptors for Harstem have been taken down at this point. Now, MaxPax has complete control of this game as far as the sieging potential, the tech in his army. The firepower is there for MaxPax. All Harstem has is consistent damage output. These DTs are going to find 2 cannons, maybe able to take them down. They do have Blink attempt at some micro there, but it's looking very, very difficult for Harstem. I mean, that 1 Disruptor shot in the middle of 5 other Disruptors, that's insane.
Yep, but the Dark Templars did. Oh, nice Nova there by Harstem. And at the same time, the DTs found a lot of success on the right side. Not a Nova goes forward. Oh my goodness. Well, that's game-ending damage. Harstem not paying attention to the army there, eating 2 very big Novas after landing a good one himself. But he just dropped 30 supply to those Disruptors.
Oh my god, the Disruptor shots in this game have just been extremely juicy all throughout. So many big Novas connecting on both sides, but all said and done right now, at least MaxPax with a huge advantage. and has gotten the juicier Novas. And that, I mean, that feels weird to say because Harstem has really landed some crazy ones as well.
Yeah.
But MaxPax now with 5 disruptors here on site. Harstem only with 2.
Yep. And one of the cannons did get taken out, so maybe it's a bit more likely that DTs and Zealots can find some success now. I love the army rotation of MaxPax. This is very dynamic gameplay. He's never just standing still. He's never keeping his army in one place. He's looking for openings over and over again. One Nova of Harstem barely falling short. I believe that MaxPax fired first there, even though they were not in range of each other. Harstem really backed up against the wall. He does have a battery overcharge, and a lot of the Novas have fired. That was a decent connection in the end for MaxPax, but I think MaxPax should probably disengage now because most of his disruptors are on cooldown.
Yeah, I mean, he does have 2 now available, but what's going on?
I mean, I think he was warping in units somewhere because they were both sitting on a lot of money. So he looked away for a split second to warp in those 11 stalkers on the right, and meanwhile he lost them in the front.
I mean, what a game this is. Just incredible back and forth here. Both players with some blunders in terms of like attention, paying attention and whatnot, but that is to their own credit, just making stuff happen all over the place. MaxPax, I do like what you were saying though. In terms of positioning, I think it's much harder to trade effectively against disruptors if your back is against the wall, right? If you are having to defend your mineral line, if you're getting pushed back into terrain that you can no longer kite against the disruptors. So I love that because when MaxPax moves a lot of his army and puts himself in a position, he kind of holds that position until he spends all of his disruptor shots, and he ends up finding very good value.
Oh my goodness, Harstem finding the final shots on that one disruptor. Otherwise, that would have been bad. I love how they both picked each other's observer off as well. You're going to see a lot of observers fall. At this point, both of them has lost 5 observers, which really goes to show that they're trying to kill as many. Vision is everything in these Stalker Disruptor wars.
Yeah, important to note as well is that with this map control that MaxPax has had, he has taken a 5th base that's already up and running. He has regained now the lead in terms of economy just by a couple of probes as well. But real estate will help also, whereas Harstem can't really take his 5th just yet because while his 4th is well defended by that setup that you were mentioning earlier, these DTs and Zealots are just looking for a 5th to snipe.
Yep. Harstem has just done a good job, though, in really turning this into a game because the start was so ugly. One Nova goes forward. Harstem is paying attention, but a little bit too late there with the blink. So he ends up losing a few more units right after losing 7 probes, too, on the left side. MaxPax feels that his army is more powerful here, so he blinks forward, finds himself a few Zealots for his troubles. Disruptors are coming in through the center. Wow. One good connection there for Harstem. Oh no, MaxPax is in danger of losing so many Disruptors. Somehow keeps 4 of them alive. I think Harstem was almost in shock at how good that shot could have been. He's like, this is a little bit too good to be true. Now at the same time, MaxPax is going to force Harstem to recall a couple of units towards the bottom, as he does a great job in keeping Harstem at 4 bases while all of this is going on. My goodness, man. They're making this a very, very fun first best of 5 of the day.
Yeah, the coolest thing about Harstem's disruptor shots there, like, yeah, they could have been even juicier, but the coolest thing was that he was looking for those disruptors to, another huge one, to be lagging behind the stalker. So he just kind of sends a few disruptor shots, looking for those disruptors, just anticipating that they should be somewhere there. So really nice pickups from Harstem, but regardless of that, MaxPax now looking to potentially flank with a huge army.
He's got 14 Dark Templars there on the right side. MaxPax has 14 DTs with blink and +3. I mean, they can blink into almost anything. Even cannons and batteries are not really going to stand much of a chance. Harstem fires a Nova forward, but this base in the bottom side, I don't know how many units were left behind. Actually, quite a few, but it's still so many Zealots and so many DTs. But MaxPax not quite sure if he wants to go for it. One Disruptor is going through the middle, but MaxPax didn't realize it. Harstem did, so he picked it off. Well done by the Dutchman.
Yes, indeed. And the Dutchman has been holding on to his ground for the time being. But remember, he's still behind 1 base, soon to be 2. So, you know, if the game continues at this pace, it's still going to be MaxPax with advantages and with room to mess up, with room to lose a big fight and still kind of replenish his army later on.
One more Nova goes forward, but MaxPax is paying attention. I think MaxPax this time is going to send it with all the Zealots and DTs at the 3rd base. Battery overcharge is very big here, and Harstem will hold. My goodness. That's a lot of DTs to keep at bay. I feel like MaxPax is getting a little bit impatient. He just wants to get Harstem out of there, but Harstem has done a tremendous job in getting that disruptor count back up. But your point about the base count is excellent. And then, oh, no, that's another big one.
Yeah, that is another big one. Only one observer remaining as well with the army of MaxPax. He just lost another one. A little bit, moving a little bit forward there, a little bit too forward perhaps, but I mean, MaxPax keeps making Harstem go to the other base, and when he does, he threatens on the west side as well. So it's such a scary dance here for Harstem, who seemingly is on the defense the entire game here.
I think Harstem is playing a phenomenal best of 5. I really mean that. It just seems like it's barely not going to be enough unless we can land some great Novas or maybe just secure that base on the left side. If we can secure 9 o'clock, then this is still anybody's game because Harstem is somewhat close to maxing out, but it feels that MaxPax is just playing fast, isn't he? He's just so dynamic with his armies. He's running around everywhere. He's always looking for big disruptive shots as the disruptors of Harstem were left behind and MaxPax gets another tiny favorable trade. But more importantly, MaxPax will take control of the high ground again, Cats. And that's going to keep Harstem at 4 bases. While this is happening, a lot of DTs are running into the main base now too. So Harstem doesn't just need to worry about the army with disruptors. He needs to worry about all the Zealots and Dark Templars too.
Yeah, and there's not an observer here actually for Harstem, so he's forced to blink away from these DTs with his Stalkers and DTs himself. So more rain for MaxPax to do whatever he wants in the main base. He's going to go after the Robo, potentially the Dark Shrine as well, and that's going to be it. Harstem will have to call it quits.